Fishermen can only afford to get sustainability wrong once. These trials help ensure that we get that sustainability picture right for years to come.
We don't want small fish. We need these fish out in the net. The cleaner we can have our catch, the easier for the crew to work with them, and that's, yes, sustainability always has to be taken into account.
If we're trying to reshape or evolve the relationship between science and the fishing industry, it is about building trust. And it's through that collaborative development of a project that that trust is built. My name's Harry Wick. I'm the Chief Executive of the Northern Ireland Fish Producers Organisation, and my first journey into fishing was in my previous career in the Royal Navy, where my ship was assigned to fishery protection duties, and as part of that I would board fishing vessels, inspect their catch and assess their compliance. And then that gave me the segue into the industry once I left the Navy. 8 years later, here I am. The reason we merge fishermen knowledge and science, you can actually see it in the room. You have fishermen looking at scientists and learning things, and you have scientists looking at fishermen and learning things. So it's like building a jigsaw. Each brings their own pieces to help us get the full picture.
Darren McClement's third generation fisherman, 38 years fishing myself, now semi-retired and working for Whitby Seafoods as fleet manager. Ben approached us, he was taking on us through the gear trials for Northern Ireland, 2018-17, so with RAC, and we've done more gear trials than any other boat via the Golden Ray. With the support of Whitby Seafoods, because it's financially difficult sometimes to do these trials, just depending on who you're working for. I think the Northern Ireland gear trials has been a success for one reason. Ben Collier, who has integrated into the industry, is well thought of with the boats, and he goes out, he helps the men, he helps the crew on deck, he helps to sort the fish, and he definitely brings a lot to gear trials. Going back 10 years ago, whenever you just had your advisors and that went out, it was definitely run differently, where Ben integrates a lot more and makes the trials work. The gear trials are very important for sustainability. Yeah, we don't want small fish, we want them out of the nets. The cleaner we can have it, the easier work for the men to do. Number one priority has to be the release of small fish, and hopefully they grow and mature into proper fish. The last gear trials we've done with the coverless net and the dual caught end net. The gears definitely made it easier for the crew once the catch was on board. They don't have to sort through the small fish. The larger fish in the dual caught end was separated completely, so there was no handling with them fish in among the prawns, which, killing prawns is a hard enough job. Killing in among fish makes it more difficult.
If we're to move from trials to industry-wide adoption, that comes in two steps. The first step has to be with government. Government has to appreciate that they need to show some flexibility in evolving the technical measures regulations. The main barrier we come across, unfortunately, is regulation and government's inflexibility towards developing and evolving that regulation. So we have rules that were put in place for a fishery that has now experienced 25 years of significant environmental change. They're out of date. We need government to realise that and help us evolve the rules accordingly. The other step needs to come from fishermen, and our responsibility in the trials is to demonstrate to fishermen that adopting this new type of gear, or a new type of gear, gives them both a better economic return and a more sustainable future for their business.
Fishermen's always open to gear trials. It's the main thing is, as I say, making sure that your boat functions properly and that there's nothing there that's set out to harm you. The trouble with gear trials through the years, the fishermen strongly believed every time they got a gear trial, it was forced on them. There was something forced down the line, whether it was right for the industry or not. It was just imposed. They were told to do it. And one of the other problems with the gear trials, we do these trials and nothing really seems to come out of it. They get pushed up the road, they get sat round a table, and 10 years later, 5 years later, there's no difference in the nets from what there was 5 years ago. Trouble is, the government's not here to help. They're not doing anything to help. You know, we've went from 98 boats here 30 years ago to this. Now, there's 4 boats not in the harbour at the minute. We had 98 boats. You could have walked from there to there across boats, not small boats. Every one of them was over 70 feet. You know, it's demise. This harbour will be ceased in 5 years.
The damaging consequences of a slow regulatory process is that fishermen have to pay the price. And the price fishermen pay is already high enough. So this slow choking effect of not being able to evolve, not being able to change gear that better suits the fishery is quite literally choking the life out of the fishing industry. We need government to move at pace.
If policy action and change doesn't happen quickly enough, there's obviously implications there for the marine environment and the ecology. The faster the pace of policy change is, the better it is for the environment.
The evidence in Northern Ireland for coverless trawls and the positive impact that has on the sustainability of the Nephrops fishery is now pretty clear. It's pretty stark. There is enough for government to act on. The failure to act on that does have sustainability and environmental consequences. If you artificially push down catch per unit effort, that means a vessel has to fish harder to achieve the same result, and that means an increase in the burning of diesel fuel. It means an increase in interaction of gear on the seabed, and it means there's less opportunity, less time then for fishermen to explore other fisheries that are more diverse.
If the regulations were able to keep pace with the reality of what goes on at sea, it would certainly make fishermen happier. It would lay a framework for something that works for the fishing industry, and it would also, I think, improve the chances of more fishermen engaging with things like gear trials and bycatch reduction.
You know, fishermen want sustainability. They want to fish for the future, for the next generation. So it all has to work along with the fishermen. Without the fishermen, you can't have gear trials.
The industry has the ability to adapt. The fishermen are the original environmentalists because we cannot afford to destroy the marine environment. We cannot afford not to have sustainability in our fish stocks. And that means fishermen are constantly thinking, constantly proposing really innovative and clever ideas of how we can achieve that. So what gives me optimism is fishermen are still the driving force behind change. That appetite hasn't gone away. And if we can persuade the regulatory authorities to listen to us, to trust us, there's potentially a very bright future ahead.